Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sydney Ross, and I'll be your host today. I'm the Outdoor Education Manager for Deep Roots, and we have a great show for you. Before we begin, I want to make a couple announcements about some exciting events and opportunities coming up here in the greater Kansas City area. This Saturday, May 4th from 10 to 1 p.m., you can join my esteemed colleague, Chris Cardwell, up in Parkville at the Platte Landing Park. Find him at the Friend Shelter from 10 to 1 p.m. This is in partnership with Evergy Green Team and Parkville Parks and Recreation. If you have attended one of our previous calorie pair programs, you know the impact that we're having here in our community. And there are actually a few spots left. So if you have a calorie pair that you've taken down or about to take down, go ahead and do so, snap a pic and register with us. I'll drop a link in the chat here following these notes so that you can go ahead and get yourself registered. It's going to be a blast. Join us every second Saturday for our Deep Roots Habitat Garden Tours, presented by the Gottermeyer Family Foundation. Last month, we were in Merriam, Kansas, and this month in May, we'll be enjoying some Crestwood charm. Visit 3 lovely examples of habitat gardens in the Luce Park area on May 11th from 9 to 2 p.m. You can snap a picture of the QR code at the bottom of the screen or go to the link that I'll be dropping in the chat a little bit later. If you're looking for formal profusion, cottage charm, and sunset prairies, then look no further and sign up today. I'm also very excited to present another guided naturalist walk. If you've enjoyed joining me or other nature enthusiasts out in the landscape, I'll be taking a bus of your favorite nature nerds out to Paintbrush Prairie and Forever Prairie out in Cole Camp, Missouri. If you want a sneak peek, check it out, Native Plants at Noon on the road, Thursday, the third Thursday of the month on May 16th, or join me in person on Saturday, May 25th. It's going to be a blast. As I mentioned, we have a great show for you today. Join us for the Missouri Department of Conservation Lunch and Learn, featuring garlic mustard, how to ID and remove it. We have a wonderful guest speaker, Cassandra Messer, private land conservationist for Missouri Department of Conservation. And before I introduce our expert speaker, I just want to talk a little bit about the history of garlic mustard, how it got here, and why it's a bit of a problem. So garlic mustard, much like many other plants that are not native here to North America, were brought over during the 1800s from Europe and Asia. It was used as a culinary and medicinal plant, also used for erosion control. And unfortunately, it escaped cultivation primarily because it doesn't have the biological pressures or natural animals that grew up eating them that have evolved with our flora for millions of years. So once it became, it was cultivated here in the United States and it escaped our gardens, it has then become an issue in our natural areas. And that's not to say that this plant is inherently evil, but it does pose some serious issues here. So I'm really looking forward to Cassandra diving in on the impacts it has in our natural areas and things that you can do to help manage it in your own property. And if you've walked in the woods this time of year in the greater Kansas City area or beyond, you may have noticed this triangular heart-shaped leaf that has very toothed edges and white flowers featuring 4 petals. If you've crushed the leaf, it smells like garlic, not mustard, but it is in the mustard family. So garlic mustard, let me go ahead and give a little try at the scientific name, Alliaria petiolata. So this is also known as poor man's mustard or jack by the hedge. And this is a biennial plant, meaning it has a 2-year process to its growth. In the first year, it forms small rosettes that hang low to the ground. The rosettes are its leaves. And in the second year, those leaves begin to grow up and a single stem will come up and have those flowers there. And once those flowers go to seed, each plant can have up to 7,000 seeds. And not to mention, if you go ahead and pull this plant, which as you'll see is one of the methods that they described today, if you leave it on the ground, those flowers will still turn to seed and spread. So it poses a very difficult situation for us and our wildlife, which is why I'm so pleased from our sponsor, Missouri Department of Conservation, for bringing their expertise to the virtual table today. And before I introduce our guest speaker, I want to welcome Dina real quick onto the screen because we have a special surprise for y'all today. So at the end of our presentation, we will have a little bit of a pop quiz, and whoever gets the question correctly will receive this pack of native plant note cards created by Nancy Waugh. She's a local artist. I love these note cards. I like to send thank you cards to people. Who doesn't love a good handwritten note? So stick around for the end of the show, and maybe you'll be the lucky winner to take these cards home today. Thanks, Dina. Okay. I am so pleased to introduce our expert speaker today, Cassandra Messer. Cassandra has worked for the Missouri Department of Conservation since 2016 after graduating from the University of Central Missouri. Cassandra's career started as a forestry aide, where she first began her prescribed fire journey. After her time in forestry, she took a position as a fisheries technician with the department and is now a private land conservationist for Platte and Clay counties. Along the way, she gained further experience with burning, including 2 Western fire details to Idaho and Northern California. Appreciate all that you do, Cassandra, and I'm so looking forward to sharing today's episode, Lunch and Learn, on garlic mustard ID and removal techniques. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Messer with the Missouri Department of Conservation, and today we are out here with Eric in Clay County at his property, and we're going to talk about his story with garlic mustard and how he's been dealing with it as an invasive species in our area. So, Eric, when's the first time that you started dealing with garlic mustard?
So about 2 years ago, I discovered what garlic mustard was on a site visit with Cassandra. Very interested in wildlife here in Clay County on this property. So I gave Cassandra a call, and she came on out and walked my property and showed me all of the species that I had and the invasive ones to take care of.
Great. So I think that we kind of talked about the way that you're going to tackle this, and this was something that we talked about timing and the different ways you can do it. But what way did you end up taking care of your garlic mustard?
So about 2 years ago I started in April, early April, come on out here and found it, and I sprayed it with a 2-gallon pump sprayer with glyphosate, and it seems to do the trick really good. And you just want to make sure that you only hit the target species.
Right, because that glyphosate is a species non-selective herbicide, which early April is kind of a good time to do that because a lot of our natives are dormant anyway, which we talked about. So if you want to go and show everyone how you're doing it, and then we'll talk about more of the other ways to do it, but go ahead and show them the way you've been knocking it out.
So really, you just want to be pretty selective on only the garlic mustard here, but I just go ahead and give it a little spray.
And right now it's a little bit later in the season that we would be doing it. We wouldn't want to have these seed heads coming up as much because this season's been a little bit off. What kind of change did you see on your property since implementing garlic mustard?
So since the first time I started on the garlic mustard, I've seen a huge increase in native plants in the understory. A lot more wildlife seem to like the area, and I just love seeing the native diversity in the understory.
And we're gonna go look at the spot that you've already hit, because this spot is one that he has not taken care of yet, so we came over here to show you guys what it looked like. So you can also hand pull it. Now in this situation, as you can see right here, there's not a whole lot of it, so maybe if you don't want to use chemical, you can hand pull it. But one thing about hand pulling, it's very easy. As you can see, that shallow root system down here, it's very easy to pull out of the ground. But the negative thing about it is you got to do it at a very specific time, because if you do it when these flower heads are up and the seeds can be dispersed, those seeds will get knocked off. If you do pull it, I would suggest putting it, and it is already flowered out, I would suggest putting it in trash bags and leaving. And this is something Eric didn't choose to do just because of the amount he had. But if you just have a little bit, or that's your preference, that's definitely an option for you to do. People have talked about like prescribed fire to manage garlic mustard, and it can negatively impact it, but it won't get rid of it. So it would have to be used in a multi-use treatment plan for it. And also it's not going to always be in a spot that you can burn. So like the timber here, there's not a lot of leaf litter on the ground, so a fire might not burn through here. So it just depends on your site that you're using. But Eric, we're gonna go look at your other spot where you've done a lot of work, and we'll go see how that's impacted your property.
Yep.
All right, so we just talked to Eric, but I want to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of garlic mustard with you, so if you have it on your property, you can identify it. Garlic mustard was actually introduced into the United States from European settlers, and so it's not native, and it has taken the last 10 years for us to really see this coming into our area, especially up here in Clay County and Platte County. It's an issue because it looks pretty fair and thin right through here, but it can become extremely aggressive. It has lots of seeds that last in the soil for 7 years, like Eric had mentioned earlier, and that in turn will end up out-competing areas. So the area right here is not too bad, but in the future this could become a carpet of garlic mustard, and that's decreasing our diversity, non-native plant. Ways to identify this plant. One, the leaves, right? If you crush these leaves, they really smell like garlic. So that's one easy way to tell what you have. But you can also tell by the leaf shape, just the serrated edges here, kind of a heart-shaped leaf. They're alternate on the stem. And then they have these little white flowers. And speaking of the flowers, a lot of the management you want to do is actually before it flowers out, if you can. Which is why we say early April is the best time to do any of the management, really, including hand pulling, just because you don't want to disperse those seeds that do last in the soil for 7 years. So Eric kind of showed you, right now we have water in this pump, so there's not actual chemical in here, but the same would be, it would be the same no matter what pump you're using. So backpack sprayer, hand pump, whatever kind of area you're dealing with, even if you have a large swath of it, maybe even on the back of a UTV if you can drive through it. But one of the best methods to use is glyphosate. It's really effective on garlic mustard, and you want to use 2 to 3 ounces per gallon. In this tank right here, we just have water. We're not actually using any chemicals right now, or else I'd be wearing PPE for safety reasons. And of course, always read the label for whatever chemical you're using. It can change per gallon, but typically glyphosate 2 to 3 ounces per gallon. For glyphosate, it's a non-selective herbicide, so that's one reason to do it in early April, when not everything's greening up yet, especially the native stuff. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna spray this plant. And like I said, you might have a backpack sprayer, you might have something on your UTV if you have a big swath of it, but you just wanna cover those leaves. And you can see it's sticking on there pretty good. You wanna do it before rainfall, use your best management practices. You don't wanna do it before rainfall. You don't wanna do it when that's going to happen and wash away the chemical on there. So you just get those leaves nice and coated. I've also seen and used, like if it's in a real heavy forb area, like right here, some forbs. If you're worried about your forbs, you can also use 2,4-D. It's not quite as effective, but it is still effective. And if you're worried about, your non-selective species, you can also use 2,4-D, and that doesn't affect your grasses. So if it's in a heavy grass area, 2,4-D would be a good option for you. Another way you can handle garlic mustard is just pulling it, like I was showing with Eric. It's very simple. You just want to grab it low to the ground, and it just pulls up very easy. Like I said, the thing you want to pay attention to is you would like to do this before it's starting to get their flowers on the head and the seeds, because of those thousands of seeds that are in there. When you pull them, they can knock them off. And another thing to note If you do pull them when they're seeded out, you want to maybe put them in a black trash bag or something, not leave them on the site, because when they deteriorate, the seed will still fall into the ground. And you're going to be dealing with garlic mustard. It's not going to be a one-year thing. It's going to be a multi-year approach because those seeds last so long in the soil. Now every year it's going to get less and less, but you're still going to have to deal with it for a couple years at least to get a handle on it. There's questions about prescribed fire with garlic mustard, and it can be a little bit beneficial to do it, but it's not going to fully get rid of it. So you're going to have to still treat it, but it can definitely knock it back. So those are the ways that you can treat for garlic mustard. And we're going to go over to Eric's good site that he's gotten done and completed and see what the benefits are that he's seen. All right, Eric, now we're here at the spot that was your focus area. Can you tell everyone kind of why it was your focus area right here?
So this is the first stand that I started to work on after buying the property and visiting with Cassandra. I primarily picked this area to start out first just because of my interest in turkey hunting and deer hunting. This is a pretty popular area with them, and it was quite infested with garlic mustard and some honeysuckle. So I started working on this 2 years ago and started hitting it with glyphosate with a 2-gallon pump sprayer throughout April. And
as you can see, the difference in vegetation response.
I've been very happy with the work done here. As you can see, the turkey come through here now. I've noticed so many more turkeys and deer. It's my favorite place to come out here and hang out.
Awesome. So how often do you come out and walk your property?
So now just maintaining my current condition. I just come out here, take a walk and check things out and check my cameras. Anything that needs attention, I'll just pull. Not too much to pull and pretty easy to take care of now. Just once every couple of weeks or so.
Right. And as you can see, a lot of landowners like Eric here, you got to focus on a spot. As you can see, there's honeysuckle surrounding us everywhere in a dense area and you're on your property. And sometimes you can't focus on all that as one person. So that's why he just chose one spot that he likes to hunt. That's going to be our spot that we focus on, and then maybe we can move out as that other area we showed you.
Yep, I certainly have plans to work in the other stands here as time permits.
Yep. So you want to show us kind of what your daily walkthrough looks like, and maybe some problems you still see in this area after 2 years of management?
Yeah, so anytime that I have a question with identification and I can't find it, Cassandra is always willing to help find it. But as you see here, there's just a little piece of garlic mustard here, so I'll just go ahead and just pick that up and make sure I get all the roots up. And from this, I'll just take this back home and put it in the burn pit.
Nice. And yeah, it's surrounded by this beautiful vegetation right here. And this vegetation could easily become overcome with it. So it's awesome that you're able to come out here and check on that. So thank you so much for showing us your property and the work you've been doing. I'm sure everyone's going to love seeing the progress that you've made, so they can see it's possible for them too. And if anyone has any questions, we'll be on after this. I'll be on after this to answer any more questions you guys have. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Cassandra and Eric, landowner, for joining us for that wonderful episode. And Cassandra, thanks for hopping on here. I'm really excited that you can join us for a little bit of a Q&A.
Yes, me too. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. First, I just want to say how cool it was to see that landowner's property both in 2 different states, right? Seeing the impact of invasive garlic mustard, how prolifically it spreads, as well as what it looks like when you get a handle on it.
Yeah, definitely. That's one reason why we wanted to show that spot that he was focusing on, but then also venture out to the spot that he hadn't hit yet, and just in how landowners need to focus on one area sometimes at a time gets overwhelming to do large acreage amounts at sometimes for people. So
yeah, so in that raises a good question. For those who do have large land, do you have any suggestions on how to approach that?
It depends. Right. As a private land person, I always gauge what the landowners capabilities are as far as time, like where they're at in their life, how much time can they dedicate to the project, like are they going to be going on there hitting it 8 hours every day for every weekend, or are they just only going to have a couple hours here and there work on it, and then from there we kind of talk about how much time it's going to take for them, and what they want to focus on. And like he was talking about his hunting spot, that was a spot that he wanted to hunt turkeys, and that's his favorite spot on the farm. So and it's very encouraging to start small too. Like I hate to give a landowner a plan to do 15 acres of honeysuckle removal or garlic mustard, and then they're just overwhelmed and they don't end up doing any of it. So hey, let's focus on this half acre area or this acre, and then we can just keep going out from there. Once you see success, and it also gets them excited to see that success. At the Mayapples, they're taking over that spot that garlic mustard was at, and so it's fun for them to see the progress too and get them hooked onto it.
I love that. That's kind of like what we recommend for small landscapes, start with your goals. In Eric's case, he's, like you said, he's a hunter. And so he wanted to make sure he's protecting that area and kind of expanding out from there. So that's some really good advice. Because it definitely can get overwhelming. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
big picture things, but
definitely.
Karen has a great question. Is there any harm to cattle, goats, and sheep to turn them into a field of garlic mustard?
So garlic mustard isn't known to be toxic. However, it does produce tannin, and that's a chemical produced in plants that's unpalatable to livestock. So a problem with doing that I would see is more the livestock and whatever is on the property grazing would favor the natives in the area, and they wouldn't want to favor the plants that are producing tannin, which include garlic mustard. So to my knowledge, it's not toxic, but it is non-palatable just because of that tannin in the plant.
That makes sense. What doesn't taste good to them sure tastes good to me because it is something that is edible to people. And that is for smaller areas or for folks who are, wanting to become familiar with it. You may consider finding and harvesting the smaller, younger plants in the first year. They make a delicious pesto. But it seems like the sheep don't appreciate that as much as I might. Oh, and I just saw in the chat, JL said our chickens seem to like it, but chickens are from Asia where garlic mustard originates, so everyone
Yeah,
wins. And
cool. Yeah, that worked out good.
that does. I think that brings up a really good point. I just like to mention this visual to people. If you imagine the globe, where we're at and where garlic mustard originates is pretty much straight across, which is why it does so well in our climate here. But the only issue is the plants that came over, we didn't bring over the biological pressures to keep them in check. So that's how things like that get out of hand. But good to know that
Definitely.
chickens seem to like them. Okay, and there were some questions in the chat about herbicide. So I was wondering if you could just talk about the pros and cons of herbicide use and when it would be appropriate.
Yes. So that's, it's always, whenever you have a huge infestation of invasives in a large landscape like Eric, for example, if I want to get work done with a landowner or a landowner wants to get work done, they're not gonna they're just not going to do it if they have to pull it all, right? Like like if we could have pulled it all and just pull it or dig it up, all of it, all the acreage, that would be best case scenario, right? But the thing is that people don't have time for that, and so herbicide is really helpful, and it's like here's the balance, right? Like there's a little bit of you don't want to have to use it, but that's how you get a handle on it to get started. And herbicide and Roundup is what's going to be effective on getting those large landscapes. And that's what's going to happen with landowners that want to get work done. They're not going to want to be able to pull 15 acres of garlic mustard. So you gotta use both, right? Like in that spot that had just a couple plants, then he's just gonna go in there and pull those plants, right? We were showing the chemical just to show people how he was doing it on his other landscape. But if it's in a big infestation, that's gonna take a lot of time and effort to manage pulling up. But yeah, if it's an easy spot to pull, I totally recommend doing that 100%.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of cool again, pointing back to Eric in the video, he showed the large area that was just absolutely infested, covered with it. And then he showed the May apples where there's just one or two. And like, yeah, it's a lot
And that
easier.
was 2 years after spraying, I mean, Roundup, there's a lot of stuff going on about it, but I mean, it's a contact herbicide, and that's why I say make sure try to keep it on the plant that you do it best management practices before, don't do it before it's going to rain, don't do it when it's windy, use your best management practices, but it is a contact herbicide, so it'll just kill what's on there. And then like I said, May apples are already grown there 2 years later. I mean, it was instant better, gratification.
I
So
love that. So, you mentioned, I know we're a little bit later in the season for dealing with garlic mustard. So, in a typical year, what time of year would you recommend folks start looking for it and
mhm.
potentially treating it?
I mean, typically early April is the best time to do it. Best time. This year we've kind of, and climate change and all that, weather's changing. So, we might need to even push it back further in the future. But right now, early April is typically a good time to be out there before the flowers come out. And you can do it when the flowers come up, before they drop. The thing would be you just make sure you put them in trash bags, so that they don't disperse their seed on the ground. But you could still do it, just not, leave them on the ground when you're done pulling them.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting that they'll stick around. Like they'll go to seed even if they're just like ripped out. And
They're persistent. Yeah.
they are, you got to give them that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we have another question that's related to the herbicide conversation. Victor mentions regarding herbicide, I guess it's a similar logic when it comes to using Tordon on shrub or bush honeysuckle. Its use should be limited, but pulling it out by the roots is the best.
Yeah,
Question.
I mean, it's just, they're both effective. They're both effective methods to do it. They both will work. It's just, what do you have the means for? What do you have the time for? If
Mhm.
you're gung ho, I support. I mean, hey, go ahead. If you're gung ho and you want to do a whole acre of it and pull it, dig it up, great. But if you can't, and I would rather see the problem go away with another method that works as well, but using our best management practices on those areas that we are doing that. So yeah, I think both are just equally as effective, so you can do either of those things.
That's good to know. I've definitely been known to take some hikes in the woods this time of year and leave with pockets full of garlic mustard. It's also a nice way to get your anger out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and then it looks like we have another question, and folks, we still have a little bit of time if you would like to go ahead and drop your questions into the Q&A. We can talk about garlic mustard, and if you have questions about other spring invasives that you're seeing, feel free to add that to the Q&A or chat as well. Margaret is asking, and I've seen this before on social media, people recommend like vinegar or like other things. Can you speak about the effectiveness of using something like that?
Yeah, I personally haven't done it myself, but with landowners I've talked to that want to try those methods, I say go ahead, right? Because they're not going to hurt anything, so you might as well try it. I've probably seen like a 50% success fail rate. Like 50% of people are like, "Yep, it worked for me." 50%, no, it didn't work for me. So I'd say it's cheap, and if you have a small amount and you want to try it, you just got to get the amount balance right, and with the water and the vinegar. So like I said, about a 50% success rate from people that I know that have done that. But other people might have different experiences with it. So
That's good to know. And Cassandra, can you remind us what the ratio is for glyphosate to water?
yes, so I'm used to talking in acres, for glyphosate. So that's 2 quarts per acre. And hopefully you don't have acres of garlic mustard. I've only seen a couple spots where it's like that. Normally it's not that big of a landscape, but it's 2 ounces per gallon. So it's 2 quarts per acre, 2 ounces per gallon. So 2 ounces per gallon is what most people will be using on their properties for garlic mustard.
Good to know. Okay, Carolyn asks, how many acres does Eric, the landowner, have? And other than garlic mustard and honeysuckle, what other invasives is he battling?
Yes. So Eric owns 40 acres ish, about that, in Clay County. And he, as you could, I don't know if you could tell in those videos, but it's a wall of honeysuckle, as a lot of places are. And the places where we take the honeysuckle out, garlic mustard starts. He's dealing with the honeysuckle, dealing with the garlic mustard. He also has a little bit of autumn olive. in the area as well, like on the field edges. And then he has a couple, it's mostly timber, but in the fields, he has a little bit of ceresia. So those are the ones that he's dealing with. But honeysuckle right now is the dominant, invasive species in that timber area.
Yeah, for sure. It's one that I think many of us are familiar with. And I'm
Mhm.
excited to say that Missouri Department of Conservation will be joining us later in the year for Lunch and Learn to discuss invasive honeysuckle and management practices in October. So that'll be great. Okay, we actually have a couple more questions. Sherry says, I read that burning garlic mustard is not effective. Is this true?
Yes. So in that video, I talked about prescribed burning. So yes, it's not gonna take care of your problem. It will knock it back, right? Like if you do it the right time of year, it can stunt it. It can help it not flower out maybe that year, but it'll still stay there. The plant that's there will stay there. And so you definitely need to have a multi-step process if you are going to burn, because burning is a good practice if you can burn. Another thing to consider is that garlic mustard is not always in timber that you can burn or that wants to burn. So the oak hickory forests, timber stands, those are ones that are going to burn and are meant to be burned. Prescribed burn is good for those species. But if you're in a bottomland area, somewhere where the leaves dissipate pretty quick, you're not going to get a burn through there anyway. But yeah, if you are going to burn, it can help stunt them, but it's not going to take care of the problem. You'll have to either pull it or treat it with chemical or whatever method you want to use besides that.
That's some really good insight. Thank you, Cassandra. Okay. So we've just got a couple more questions and then I will let you, and then we will announce our pop quiz and pick a winner for those Nancy Waugh native plant cards. Okay. So this is Deborah's asking about the green onion looking plants growing all over the woodlands. What is it? Is it invasive? Is it native? Is this something we should worry about, Cassandra?
Look, with anything, it is a native plant. But with anything, if you have a lot of it in one area, like you don't want one species to overtake the area. I haven't seen it really do that, but I'm not too worried about it when I see it. If it is a big carpet of it, then maybe I'd be like, okay, we want some diversity in here, so maybe I would, but I haven't seen that yet. But that would just be a concern with any plant, even if it's native. Sometimes they can still be nuisances and take over an area where you want diversity. So that would be my concern with that. But overall, I don't see it being a problem in the woodland areas.
Yeah, I think me either. And if you have a little bit of excess, maybe pull that up and some garlic mustard and you've got yourself a yummy little pesto going right there too.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Jamie is asking, oh, let's see. Okay, cool. We've got other folks popping in here. Jamie is asking, I only have an acre in Platte County, but need help with property assessment to help me manage the invasives that are out of control this year. Does MDC offer this service? And if so, how did they get in touch?
Yeah, so that's great. I'm actually your contact for that. So I think Sydney has my email on here, but you can reach me through my email and I come out anytime. It's free for me to come look at your property and see what you have going on. There's even potentially like funding to help me help, cost share some of that funding to get rid of your invasives or whatever you want to do on your property. So yeah, reach out to me. I'm for Platte and Clay County, so I'll definitely could come out and take care of that for you. No problem at all.
That's awesome. And Jamie, you
Yeah.
got the quick introduction right here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome. Well, Cassandra, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and I'll have you stay on just to help answer the question that we have here for our pop quiz. Let's get going. Okay. All right. So for today's pop quiz, we want to know, how long do garlic mustard seeds persist in the soil? Cassandra had mentioned this in our video earlier. So let us know in the chat. And while you are going and entering that answer there, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this exciting work and learn that I have coming up at Antioch Park. If you want to join us in Johnson County Parks and Recreation District, I will be there representing Deep Roots, working on the Antioch Park Pollinator Garden. Join me Wednesday, May 15th from 8 to 10 a.m. Feel empowered, enjoy camaraderie, and learn seasonal skills along native gardening experts and enthusiasts. It's going to be a great time. I've been driving by the garden, stalking it already, and it looks super cute, and it could use our help getting a little spring haircut. Okay, Cassandra, so it looks like we have an overwhelming response of 7 years, primarily 7 years. And our winner today is JL Johnson. Congratulations, friend. If I will go ahead and email you after the show and get your address or coordinate having you pick up those cards. So that's very exciting. And Cassandra,
That's
before I let
awesome. Those are cool cards.
Aren't those cool? I know. And
Yeah.
Cassandra, before I let you go, just go ahead and remind our audience about that fact about garlic mustard seeds, if you don't mind.
So yeah, garlic mustard seeds, there's thousands of them per plant, and they will get into the soil and they can last up to 7 years, similar to a lot of our other invasive species whose seeds last a long time. So don't get frustrated if you're working on it. You'll have a big kill off the first time you're working on it. You'll still have a little bit of plants coming in, but it should get less and less every year the more you do it, and then eventually you won't have any. But yeah, it'll get easier year to year for management wise. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cassandra. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today, and special thanks to Missouri Department of Conservation for bringing people closer to nature. That's all we have for today, and we hope you'll join us next time for our Native Plants at Noon episode, the third Thursday of this month at 12 p.m. And I'm dropping Cassandra's email in the chat once again. So for all of you who have questions about your large land management, feel free to reach out to Cassandra. Thank you all. Thanks, Cassandra.
Thank you. Thank you.